Dear friends, every morning after I wake up, I do a body scan, some breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, and then with trepidation, I look at the news, and then I also look at social media very briefly. My only engagement with social media is offering content to people for well-being, longevity, health span, awakening, etc. But as you click on your Instagram or whatever, sometimes you see things that cause anxiety, because most of social media is right now either about the cancel culture or who's attacking whom and who's making money off whom by all the stuff that's going on. In other words, the world is on fire. And there are wars everywhere, there's terrorist attacks, there are hostages, children are dying. It's a sad world. So how do you live peacefully in a world of violence and hostility? This is what I've been asking myself almost every day. So there's a paradox at the heart of our time. We live in an age of instant connection. Instant. Yet we are surrounded by division, outrage, and conflict. You only have to open your phone, as I said, for a few seconds to feel the weight of violence and hostility in the world. And yet somewhere inside you, there's a quiet knowing that this is not the whole story of who we are. So in the next few minutes, I want to explore how you can live peacefully in the midst of a world that often feels anything but peaceful. Not by escaping life, but by awakening to a deeper dimension of who you truly are. This has been my passion all my life. Sometimes I've succeeded and sometimes I've failed miserably. But let's look at the real source of violence, because violence is everywhere. It does not begin with weapons or governments. It begins in the human mind. Every act of hostility is the outward expression of an inner disturbance, unseen fear, unresolved pain, and the belief that we are fundamentally separate from each other. So when we identify only with the ego, the small conditioned self of me, Deepak, or whoever, John, Mary, we feel vulnerable in a vast, unpredictable world. From that vulnerability comes a constant need to defend, to control, and also to attack. But the ego is not evil, it is simply confused. It has forgotten its source. It has forgotten that behind this personal story, there's a field of awareness, a presence that is already whole, already safe, already at peace. When we remember that dimension, the impulse toward inner violence starts to lose its power. Living peacefully is not about pretending the world's pain does not exist. It is not spiritual bypassing. It is not closing your eyes and saying everything is fine. Peace in its deepest sense is a quality of consciousness. It is the recognition that even as life moves through these cycles of conflict and occasionally harmony, very rarely, but yes, it does, occasionally harmony, there's an underlying field of awareness that is untouched. When you live from that recognition, you don't become passive or indifferent. You can feel the world suffering even more deeply, but you respond from clarity instead of reactivity, from compassion instead of hostility. Peace is not weakness, it is the strength of knowing who you really are. So how do we actually live this? Practically, in the middle of this really noisy, polarized world, all the noise, social media, news networks, internet, on and on. Think of an inner technology of peace, simple practices that shift your state of consciousness. The first, of course, and I'm sure you know I was going to say this, is meditation, returning to the source. Take a few minutes each day to sit quietly and notice your breath. As thoughts arise, instead of following them, observe them. You begin to discover a gap, a space between thoughts. In that space, there's no conflict, no storyline, no us versus them. There's only awareness, and that awareness is peaceful by nature. Second, mindful attention, seeing without attacking. Throughout your day, notice when you feel triggered by the news, by a comment online, by some people make their living just by commenting and attacking you online, by someone you disagree with. In that moment, pause. Feel your breath. Name what is happening inside. Anger is here. Fear is here. Shame is here. Guilt is here. When you bring awareness to a reaction, you create space around it. In that space, you can choose a new response. And then thirdly, compassion will always break the cycle. Hostility feeds on dehumanization. Compassion begins when you remember that the person you're judging, fearing, or opposing is also carrying wounds, conditioning, and pain. You don't have to agree with them, but when you silently acknowledge their shared humanity, you stop adding more aggression to the collective field, which is on fire. And then, of course, gratitude. You shift the channel. Gratitude is not denial of suffering, it is a shift of attention. Even on difficult days, you can notice the breath in your lungs, the presence of one supportive person in your life, the fact that you're awake and aware right now. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it reconnects you to what is whole and unbroken within you. So imagine that your presence is like a tuning fork. Wherever you go, you subtly influence the frequency of the space around you. You may not be able to stop a war. You may not be able to change political systems overnight, but you can influence the field of consciousness in every room you enter. And you do this in very ordinary ways, by listening instead of immediately arguing, by offering a kind word when it would be easier to stay silent, by refusing to dehumanize the person you disagree with. Each of these may seem small, almost insignificant, but consciousness is contagious. Peace is contagious. Your inner state does not stay inside you. It radiates outward moment by moment. And when enough individuals rest in this deeper awareness, the collective field begins to shift in ways we cannot always measure, but we can feel. So let's experience this right now, just for a minute, okay? If it's comfortable, gently close your eyes. Take a slow breath in, slow breath out. Notice any tension you're holding in the shoulders, jaw, chest. When you next exhale, imagine that tension is melting, even just a little bit. So inhale, exhale. Imagine the tension melting, even just a little. Now bring to mind one situation in the world that feels painful or hostile to you. You don't need details, just a sense of it. And now place it in a gentle field of light in your awareness. You're not trying to fix it. You're simply acknowledging it while resting in a deeper stillness. Silently repeat inside yourself, may I meet this with awareness, not reactivity. May I meet this with compassion, not hostility. May my presence be a source of peace. And now feel your breath again. Feel the simple fact that you're here aware. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. The world may continue to move through cycles of conflict. It will. We cannot control every event, but what we can choose is the level of consciousness from which we live our lives. Peace is not something you wait for the world to give you. It is a quality you awaken within yourself and then offer to the world through your presence, through your words, and through your actions. So if this exploration resonates with you, take one simple commitment into your day. Perhaps to pause before reacting. Perhaps to listen more deeply. Or to remember, even for a few breaths, that who you are in essence is not separate from anyone or anything. Okay, thank you for being here and choosing to be a point of peace in a turbulent world. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om is universal vibration. Shanti for me, Shanti for everyone I know, and Shanti to the world. 3 Shantis. For yourself, for everyone you know, and then for the whole world. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.